everyone. I have no idea where Willie is. I texted him a couple times asking if he's okay, and I haven't heard from him. So we're going to see how this pans out. I have his I have his articles up here, so when he does come, or if he does come, whatever, hopefully he'll be here. So we'll see how it goes. What's up, Mr. H? How you doing, sir? Good to see you. Earl of Laurel. Nice to meet you. Thanks for stopping by. I keep looking at my phone. I'm like hoping that he comes because I don't know where he is. He's like never late or anything, and he always looks at messages. So, and he hasn't even looked at the messages that I sent him yet. Hi, Ellen. I know, that's what I'm hoping. I hope everything's okay with him because, yeah, he hasn't seen any of my messages yet. He did share off everything on Twitter about an hour ago, so he was normal an hour ago. So fingers crossed that he's okay. I have no idea yet. So this is usually like where mom mode kicks in and I start panicking. I'm like, what's going on? Is Willie okay? Do I need to start calling around hospitals and stuff? I get all freaked out. So yeah, right, Miguel. That's what I'm thinking too, is he's probably just asleep. So probably just slept in because I think he did work last night. I'm not sure. But we'll just go through my stuff. And if he doesn't come, then I don't know. Maybe he'll want to do something tomorrow and talk about it. I don't know. But at least to give you guys a show of the stuff that I have. I hate that I'm going to be talking about this by myself, though. I really do. Damn it. Oh, well, whatever. It's all right. Because there's pretty much like the only thing that's been going on this week that the news has been covering. Trying to find other news is like, off the hook. It's super, super hard. So a lot of this stuff has to do with Palestine and Israel and stuff. So that was something that we definitely wanted to talk about today. And I told him, I was like, I'm going to let you run this. Like, I'm going to let you're going to be the boss on this part. So, I'll just go with, because he has a lot of videos more than I do. So I was going to let him run it, but he's not here. So we will see how this goes. I don't know. I don't know how today's going to go now. I'm scared. All right. So far, let's see, what have I been doing this week? I restarted playing Fallout 4, which is really cool. I've been getting into like all the songs in Fallout. That's been really, really fun. Just been trying to keep up with the news and everything that's going on, all the different sides of everything. Yeah, I don't know where Willie is. But we'll start off with something simple. Well, I guess it's not really simple, but you know what I mean. Something that's not like what's on the mainstream stuff. So we're here to back you up, Jimmy. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you so much. I wanted to start off with something a little bit easier to digest. This was actually really funny because there's a story. So the main story is the Senator Bob Menendez and his wife are being indicted on bribery charges. And I can also, yeah, exactly, Miguel. I can interact with the chat. I know it's like just like doing what. So I don't think it's too much of a difference. I hope. But yeah, so they're indicted on bribery charges. And what's really interesting and ironic about this is like a couple of years ago, his wife got out of being in trouble for running someone over, and like they're just getting themselves out of getting in trouble and stuff. But so here's like the main story of more antitrust laws obviously need to be in place. We need to start, obviously ending this corruptness in the Senate, the House, the judicial, all of it. It's just, yeah, here we go. It's just another one,
An indictment, a federal indictment with major implications in Washington and abroad. New Jersey Democratic Senator Bob Menendez and his wife have been indicted on corruption-related charges. Menendez is the powerful chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He and his wife are accused of accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes in exchange for the Democratic senator's influence. What's more, this is the second time in the past 10 years that Menendez has faced charges like this. We are getting new details and new pictures from this indictment, including gold bars. CNN's Kara Scannell outside the federal courthouse in New York following this all. Kara, what are you learning?
Yeah, John, so as you say, the senator, his wife, and 3 New Jersey businessmen all indicted on corruption-related charges. And what authorities here allege is that Menendez and his wife had accepted hundreds of $1,000s in bribes and then used that for some of their influence to affect influence. Here are some of the details that we're learning from this indictment. So we learned that authorities had executed a search warrant on the senator's home in New Jersey in June of 2022 and on safety deposit boxes they had. And what they found when they executed this search warrant was $480,000 in cash placed in envelopes and at times stuffed in jackets, including jackets that say the senator's name on them. We also learned that they found gold bars that they would receive from one of the businessmen. And those envelopes of cash, the authorities said that they found the DNA of another one of the businessmen on that, tying them to them. They also found a luxury vehicle that a third businessman had given the Menendezes, and they also alleged that they had received these payments for a home mortgage.
Yeah, third.
They'd received
just really quick. So she's going through all the things just really quick. A third luxury car for him and his wife. Just that's a big one too.
no show jobs and also
What's
that
up,
luxury
Daniel?
vehicle. Now, what we've also learned from this indictment so far is that one of the things that they say that Menendez had done in exchange for these bribes was that he had pressured the Department of Agriculture official to help the businessman who has this exclusive arrangement with Egypt to export halal certified products. Also, that Menendez had provided sensitive U.S. government information that secretly aided the government of Egypt. They also say that he sought to interfere with criminal investigations into 2 of these businessmen. One of them, Jose Urbe, they tried to disrupt the criminal investigation. And they also allege that Menendez tried to recommend that the president nominate someone for the U.S. attorney in New Jersey to try to influence an investigation into one of the businessmen, a New Jersey developer, Fred Davies. Davies has pleaded guilty to a bank-related charge, and his sentencing is scheduled for next month. But these are just some of the details that we're learning to kind of give a scope of what prosecutors say the Menendezes had did and how he tried to influence policy, including providing sensitive U.S. information secretly to Egypt. I have reached out to Menendez's representatives and his lawyer. I've not heard back yet on the charges. The U.S. attorney will be holding a press conference at 11 a.m. Probably learn additional details then, John.
Yeah, we will be following that news conference to be sure to learn much more about the scope of this indictment. Kara, as you have pointed out,
I mean, that's just like a list of all the things that he's done. I mean, like the one that I really, really, really want, because I really wish, like, this is kind of like my dream right here. So with that information that's taken of all the, I mean, what do you expect? You know, a politician being corrupt? Come on now, like. Obviously, that's going to happen. Obviously, they're going to be paid by corporations to get things changed into laws. So that way regulations are cut down. This is something that's been going on. Obviously, we know for a very, very long time. It's just really interesting that the kind of things that they're getting away with. Not having to face justice in certain areas. So like a couple of years ago, Mr. Menendez's wife, who just so you guys, I really wish like the gossip girlies can get a hold of this, like the like Real Housewife gossip chickies can get a hold of all of this stuff, because I think this would be fucking perfect for them. So his wife, who has also, I believe, was sleeping with not only was married to Menendez, but I think he was sleeping with R. Kelly's manager, I believe. Here's some shit that she has done. Yeah, right. Free Julian Assange. He's still in prison. That would be really nice. Here's some information about Mr. Menendez's wife back in 2018.
5-year-old deadly car accident now getting attention because the driver is now the wife of U.S. Senator Bob Menendez, both of them facing federal charges of taking bribes.
Yeah, it happened in December of 2018, before they were married. Nadine Menendez drove her Mercedes in Bogota, New Jersey, when she hit and killed a pedestrian. Police released video of her after the crash. Here's Eyewitness News reporter Darla Miles.
If we can clear you from any wrongdoing, I want to get you home and comfortable and not here anymore. You get what I'm
In this dash cam video, a Bogota police officer is speaking with Nadine Menendez while responding to the fatal December 2018 accident that killed 49-year-old Richard Coop, who was simply walking towards his front door after getting out of an Uber.
He jumped on my windshield.
Okay. Okay.
The federal indictment against the senator, his wife, and 2 co-defendants for bribery and corruption is now shedding new light on the accident investigation. On page 25, it reads, on or about September 6, 2019, Menendez met with Official 2 at his Senate office in New Jersey through advice and pressure to cause Official 2 to favorably resolve the investigation.
How we doing? You're retired, you said? Yeah. From where? Pakistan. Oh, okay. All right. You guys been safe here for the prosecutor's office? As of right now, I don't believe so. I believe we're good to release her as soon as she grabs the stuff from her car.
The person speaking is never identified, only saying Nadine is a friend of his buddy's wife. The accident itself also captured on surveillance video.
She was barreling down the road, hit him, tossed him to the roadway, and then sat there in her car for a period of time.
Sherry Breen represents members of Coop's family.
She never comes to the aid of my client. She doesn't come anywhere near it. In fact, she drives over and gets it.
Nadine Menendez was cleared of criminal charges, and prosecutors say she pressured co-defendant Jose Uribe to replace her totaled car with this convertible Mercedes. When asked about this case today on Capitol Hill,
that was a tragic accident, and obviously we think of the family.
in Bogota, Darla Miles, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
So yeah, that's the kind of corrupt stuff that we get to experience, you know, because that's, you know, America for you. Them and their wives or their friends get off of facing any kind of justice. I was actually talking about this in 2018, and I was going around like asking, like, how is this lady able to get away with this when anyone else couldn't? Like, it didn't make any sense to me. Like, I knew she was like, you know, high up there or whatever, dating, married to someone, blah blah blah. I think that the crash was before she married him, but anyway, it just didn't make sense to me how she was able to talk to some people and get out of it and stuff. Like, it was just really, really upsetting to me to hear that kind of thing. And so it's good to see that it's coming back to hit her in the ass now. It sucks that after all these years, you know, her and obviously the Menendez guy have just been doing worse and worse and worse and more corrupt stuff for the benefit of their pocketbooks. So, yeah, that's some bullshit to me. I thought that was really crap. But it's good to see that it's finally coming back, and I hope you all keep your eye out on it. And I'm definitely going to keep my eye out on with this Menendez stuff, because, you know, once the eyes start turning away from it, that's when things really start going on, and you really start to see how they're going to get treated. So yeah, good to see you, gamer. Let's see, Gray Zone wrapped up. Yeah, that's what I was watching before I started live streaming here. So it was really, really good. Show. I didn't look into the chat though. I usually just turn off the chat for most of the time. You know who had a really good conversation too yesterday about all the stuff that's happening in Palestine and in Israel is Ethan Klein and Hassan Piker. They were on their little show Leftovers or something, and they were on for like over 3 hours yesterday, and it was really, really hard to watch because Ethan and his wife are, you know, very Jewish. Ethan's wife was part of the IDF when he went to Israel, Palestine. When Ethan went to Palestine, that's where he met his wife. She was an IDF soldier. So like they're very, 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 very Jewish. And Hassan is from Turkey, very Muslim, very Arabic. So it was hard to hear because you're trying to not only empathize with both sides, but you're also trying to get both sides to see where they were wrong in it. So it's very, very, I don't have 3 hours to sit here and watch all of it. If you guys want to watch something, then I would definitely at least just sit and listen to what they have to say and come up with your own opinion based off of that. But I thought it was a really, really good episode yesterday. 3 hours of just really deep conversation. So yeah, Max and Aaron are really good, especially like Aaron Matei's father, Gabor Matei, going around. I mean, he, you know, his grandparents were like, I think Holocaust survivor or Holocaust. They died in the Holocaust. I believe he's a Holocaust survivor. So definitely I respect Aaron Matei's dad way, 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 way much, like a lot. So yeah. You know, like H3, all of them they are definitely a lot of just trolly brats and stuff. But it's good to be able to get to see both sides of the opinions, and then hear at least two people that are friends that are completely, like with what's going on right now, opposite minded, to see them at least try to come together and get each other to see each other's sides, to see how it could work, like the psychology of it, like how, okay, if Ethan and Hassan were able to sit there and talk about it and, have like aha moments and learn things and stuff, how can we do that on a bigger, more massive scale, for Palestine and Israel to get it? Because, the one state and the two state solution obviously is not going to work. The way the Palestinians have been treated is not going to work, but there's got to be a way. So it's just really cool to see. It was good to see the two dichotomies, at least talking it out in a very, very friendly manner. I really appreciate that. Yeah, Gabor Mate is a saint. I completely agree. And Shank won't make it for running for president, right? Well, that's what so everybody's talking about that this week, and like saying that because he wasn't born in America, he can't run for president. And I think I was watching something like an interview where he's saying that he's wanting to be a spoiler candidate. Like he knows he can't be president, that he's just wanting to take the vote so that way either the Democrats can change who they're gonna pick as their main candidate, or at least take a lot of the votes away from Biden. It's very, I don't think he's going as running. It's definitely a trolling thing, which is interesting, but whatever. That's Shank. I mean, what do you expect? The guy needs to be center of attention, spotlight everywhere. So two states is only solution besides zero sum. But the problem is, okay, so like with the two state solution, like they've been saying for years, if you think about it, technically right now it's already quote unquote a two state solution. Like it's been like that. And what has Israel done is just take more and more and more and more land from the Palestinians, especially in the West Bank. So if anything, they kind of have been living in a two state quote unquote solution, because Palestine, like Gaza and the West Bank and stuff, they have don't they have like a working government as well? You just don't really hear about it. So I mean, it's like more militaristic, but so like technically if you think about it in like the bigger aspect of it, it is technically already a two state as it is, and it's not really working out. So I just don't feel like the two state could be the answer, because there's just always going to be more people from other countries with the religion of Jewish going to that country and taking more land from the West Bank, saying that it's their holy land and blah, blah, blah. So I feel like that's like the continue of it if we keep the two states. So there's got to be something different. Like there's got to be something. So how is Gaza and West Bank state? Israel controls them. I don't say that they're states. I'm just like in a if you look, like take a step back and look at it, like, it is definitely apartheid. Obviously it's an open state prison or an open air prison. All of that absolutely is. But like, it's so hard to explain without me saying that like I agree with it, because I don't. But like I feel like what they're trying to fight for with the two state solution is pretty much what they already have there, and it's not going very well for the Palestinians and hasn't. Like I feel like that's what they've been trying to have, is this quote unquote two state solution thing, but it's not. Obviously it's doing what they're doing, is taking more land from the West Bank and stuff. So I feel like there's got to be something. I don't feel like the two, like how would you solve the two state solution? Like split it in half, and then they're in the, like the Zionists are in the top part and the Palestinians and the Muslims are on the bottom part. Like how would you go about fixing that if you were to create a real two state solution? Because it feels like to me like that's what they already have, but it's not. It's still in control of Israel, and it's not going good for the Palestinians. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say, because I'm really horrible explaining things until I can hear somebody who's got a good, smart word for me to repeat. So, two status solution, right? Like, I feel like that, like they're begging for a two-state solution, but like this is kind of like what's been going on already for the last 50 years is kind of what an example of what the two-state solution would end up being if it was already enacted. So I feel like if we're fighting for a two-state solution, we should look at it of what it's already doing, and it's not really going that great for them. So is that really a good solution for them? Palestinians have a state the way I am a sovereign citizen. Right. Yeah. Yeah. An apartheid state. Right. And that's what I'm trying to explain it in a better way where I don't sound like I'm like on the bad side or I don't know what I'm talking about. Cause I just like, I get it. It's so hard to explain. I'm waiting. Like I'm seriously sitting here just kind of waiting on time. Cause Willie texted me back, said that he overslept. He'll be here. Hopefully he'll be here. So we'll see how, when he comes in. I told him I'm live if he wants to hop in. So yeah. Palestinians don't have a state, right? Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So it is. Yeah. It's okay. So you do understand what I'm trying to say because it is really, really complicated. Like yeah, I feel like I'm gonna just repeat myself over and over again. So right. Actually, we'll get into this because he's got some really good stuff, and I'm waiting for him to come. My biggest but see, and that's I'm not trying to like bring it or bring a hater or hate on you or anything, because I agree with you. Palestinians don't have anything. Absolutely. Don't, yeah, for sure. I'm right there with you. I'm just trying to maybe come to the realization in my own head of like, liberals saying that a two-state solution is right. And I'm just like, but they have kind of like a two-state solution right now. And it's really, really shitty for the Palestinians because they don't really have shit. So like, like you're pretty much basing your hope that the Israelis will give Palestinians their own states' rights and stuff. But it's not really ever going to happen like that because that's how they've been living is, where they think that, they have rights. And I'm pretty sure Israelis think Palestinians have goddamn rights and stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure that they don't think that they're living in an open air prison. So they're like, oh, well, we give them what they want and they're still not happy. And, it's not like that at all. I agree. It's not like that at all. They don't have anything. Yeah, I'm running around in my brain now. Okay. You're okay. You're tracking my point. Okay, cool. Either someone is cutting wood. Yes. Someone is cutting wood. Sorry, you guys. I live in the mountains, in the national forest. So I got a neighbor. They're everybody's prepping for winter right now. So it's a lot of cutting trees, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, somebody's cutting trees. Okay, so I would at least want to show so the parts that I've really been paying attention to is a lot of the misinformation and like the words that are being used, the verbiage that's being used in the mainstream from everywhere, and seeing how they're using it to either brainwash us, need a roommate, take me away from all this. Right? I mean, this is what you got to deal with. So you get away from the city and then you come out into the forest, and it's just a whole different mess of like messiness instead of like, crazy, like, I don't know, people like driving down the street in loud cars and stuff. You get wood choppers. So yeah, this is what I've been trying to pay attention to, is more of the social aspect, the verbiage that's being used in the mainstream media, how how the other side is, how each side is visualizing and talking about it to other. Wow. And there's this one that's definitely going very, very viral. I've noticed this week that Sky News and BBC obviously is very biased in their ways, but there was yesterday a very good anchor on Sky News. He brought in the ex-Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett to at least let them. Okay, so the problem is that a lot of us, or a lot of the people in Israel and on the left, are saying that Hamas is Palestinians. They're putting those two together, and you have to separate the two. And so this is kind of the verbiage and the language that I'm really kind of really paying attention to try to see like the propaganda and the brainwashing that they're trying to put on us by using these certain terms. And so this is one of the ones that really, really upset me with all of this. I feel like I'm going backwards right now. I really wish that Willie was here to like start us off, and then I could end kind of with this, but we'll start with the ending, the social aspect of it, the verbiage. Maybe if we listen to this a little bit first, and then when Willie comes and shows us the news part of it, we kind of already have that in our heads to listen to the words that they're using against each sides. So here's a really good one. This one kind of upset me a little bit to hear what the Israelis are thinking.
Speak to the former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, who's joining us now live. Naftali Bennett, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us today. What are the next steps for the Israeli military in terms of dealing with Hamas?
We set a goal of eradicating Hamas. The first step until now was to fend off and fight all the terrorists that are still in Israel and kill them. Kill as many Hamas terrorists as possible and protect our people. As we speak right now, there are a lot of forces, special forces, fighting those Hamas Nazis in the southern towns, but it seems that we're on top of things right now. The next step is to go on the offensive and to eradicate this Nazi-type Hamas. In my life, I've never used the term Nazi for anything but the original Nazis. This is the first time I'm using it because it's the exact same ideology of annihilating Jews just because they're Jews. We are talking about monsters who rape, sever parts of bodies, abduct 85-year-old women and 2-month-old babies. This is not an enemy. This is a monster, and we're going to treat it as such.
So far, I hope you guys are like keeping in check a couple of the terms that they're using so far. Nazis, decapitating babies. I think, what was the word that they just used right there?
This is a monster.
Monsters. That's right. Hamas. So when he's talking about Hamas, oh, what's up, Willie?
Hi, I overslept.
That's all right. You're totally fine. That's cool. I'm just getting started. So
Wait, what did I miss?
Nothing. You're totally good. I got one news article in, and now we're just getting started on the Israeli stuff. So
okay.
Yeah. So what I'm getting them started on is just started with the interview with the ex-Prime Minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett, being interviewed by an anchor in from Sky News. I wanted the audience to kind of get a little feeling of the words and the verbiage and the language that they're using against even regular Palestinians. Now you're caught up. He was just using those words about Hamas. Hamas, the militant group, exactly. Like they're a military group. Obviously, they're horrible for what they did. They're a terrorist group, if you want to call them that. I'm pretty sure every military of every enemy is called a terrorist group. That's just how it goes. So what they did, yes, absolutely is horrible, but that is not Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. That's not all of them. There's even a statistic out that I'm pretty sure all of us have heard. 50% of the population in Gaza is children under the age of 15. I think the average median age, the average age of Gaza is 19 years old. So a lot of this are just, regular families, people living in Gaza. So when he talks about how Hamas is bad, okay, whatever. You want to talk about the Hamas is bad, but you have to be able to separate the two from the Palestinian people to Hamas, the military group. And a lot of them aren't doing that. They're just blanket statementing all Palestinians living in Gaza and the West Bank as terrorists, as Hamas terrorists. So just, keep. And this is an ex-Israeli prime minister. Just remember the verbiage and the wording that they're actually using out here against other people that they're fighting, or that they're quote unquote enemies. So I just wanted you guys to remember, these are the words they're using: Nazis, terrorists, monsters. So
well, I would like to say, I would like to say real quick that what a lot of people need to be made aware of. I think that many people in our audience probably would be aware of this, but Hamas was the creation of the Israeli Mossad. They were creation of the Israeli Mossad, and with the intention. I mean, it exists on its own, but the Israeli Mossad came in and helped them, nurture them, helped them grow and influence to cause division within the PLO. The PLO still exists, the Palestine Liberation Organization, but it's a shell of its former self, and it was there to basically use fundamentalism to destroy the secular left that's in existence within the PLO. The PLO is kind of a broad umbrella of various left-wing organizations. Not perfect. Some of them are corrupt, but secular and left, and people that are a little bit more reasonable to deal with. But you got something like Hamas, which is no different from the Likud party. So, I mean, and the right-wing parties in Israel, and the right wing itself. And so Israel the government of Israel, the Mossad, shall I say, is the reason why all this crap is happening. And also, 2006, the Bush administration also is blamed for having them normalized, because there was a more moderate government in 2006 in Israel prior to Netanyahu and the Palestinian authorities. And Condoleezza Rice tried to pressure the Israelis and the Palestinian authorities to holding elections in Gaza, and they said this is going to result with Hamas being elected. Now, Gaza's been an open air prison for all these years too. They're not allowed to have infrastructure. I'm just basically
right.
I mean, they're not allowed to live like a normal human beings. And then a lot of people who are propagandized in the West are like, dude, what are they doing? Well, you're not allowed to have water, electricity. You're not allowed to leave. You're not allowed to do. It lays way for someone like a Hamas comes along, and then everybody's like, well, how could this be happening? How could this be happening? Well, all that I just explained happened, and I hate to say it, but it's Israel's fault for this shit happening. It's the Bush administration's fault for this happening in 2006 too.
Right. My buddy Rocco used to have a really good saying, and it was, if you treat people like insurgents long enough, don't be shocked when they come at you like enemy combatants.
It's blowback, basically, is their version of blowback. The 9/11 report talk about blowback against the United States. What we did in Afghanistan, supporting the rebels in Afghanistan against the Soviets. That's what Mossad did with Hamas, supporting the rebels there to try to bring down the PLO. Kind of the same thing.
Yep. And I mean, this right here is kind of what what we have now because of a lot of that stuff. Let's finish watching.
I'm sorry. I just
no, you're good. You're good. Would you like to? I feel like I'm going backwards with this. If you want to start off with what you have first.
No, you go finish this, and I just kind of wound up because this subject's been getting to me all week.
Yeah, no, I would love to actually start off with yours first, because I felt like I watched yours and then I was going to end with my stuff because I got a few more other things to go with it. So I felt like I was starting with the end and then we were going to go back to the beginning. But if you're here, I would rather start with the beginning and then continue on with this.
Oh, okay. And then let's get started then.
Okay.
All right.
Let's get your stuff going with it. Who stands with Israel? Kim Iverson?
Yes.
Okay. You got it.
Oh, by the way, a reason I have a Palestinian flag in the background because it pisses off the right wing, and also want to give my solidarity to the Palestinian people for their suffering.
That's right.
Yeah.
I want to show you how politicians have responded to the event. Some of them had a more measured take. Others went full-on warmonger. Let's start off with actually Jeremy Corbyn from the UK. So he says the unfolding events in Israel and Palestine are deeply alarming. We need an immediate ceasefire and urgent de-escalation. and we need a root out of this tragic cycle of violence. Ending the occupation is the only means of achieving a just and lasting peace. Cornel West also came out with something similar. So these were the two, I would say, that had a more measured reaction to the events that happened. I would say I agree with Jeremy Corbyn and Cornel West the most on this. Cornel says, he says, the escalation of the barbaric violence in the Middle East must stop. The vicious Israeli occupation and the ugly Palestinian retaliation results in the killing of precious innocent people on both sides. We must have a lasting peace based on justice. So I do agree with Cornel West, who, by the way, announced that he is running as an independent. He left the Green Party. He has gone independent. Speaking of someone who has ditched out and has become independent, who's ditched the Democrats and has become independent, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., let me show you what he had to say. This was his tweet. He said, the ignominious, I don't even know that word, this unprovoked and barbaric attack on Israel must be met with world condemnation and unequivocal support for the Jewish state's right to self-defense. We must provide Israel with whatever it needs to defend itself now. As president, I'll make sure that our policy is unambiguous so that the enemies of Israel will think long and hard before attempting aggression of any kind. I applaud the strong statements of support from the Biden White House for Israel in her hour of need. However, the scale of these attacks means it is likely that Israel will need to wage a sustained military campaign. Oops, there goes my background. To protect the citizens. Statements of support are fine, but we must follow through with unwavering, resolute, and practical action. America must stand by our ally through this operation and beyond as it exercises its sovereign right to self-defense. Pretty damn warmongery, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
No, him just saying,
that's what I was gonna say. Is like more of those words, like unprovoked barbaric attack on Israel. How are you guys all gonna sit there and say this kind of stuff and expect us to just be like, oh, okay, yeah, I believe you, absolutely. Like, he is super warmongery. So that the enemies of Israel will think long and hard before attempting aggression of any kind. Like, how American of you, just so cocky, narcissistic, egotistical, full of yourself, that's all you care about. Enemies of Israel, because Israel's our friend, so they have to be enemies. It's so gross to me.
Robert Kennedy is stuck in another era. I mean, and that's
Right.
partly what it is. And it is a definitely WTF moment, his rhetoric. I mean, is he better than Biden overall? Probably. But on this one, he's horrible. And he's still trying to overcompensate because he retracted on defending Roger Waters because of Roger Waters' anti-Israeli positions. Going back like 4 or 5 months ago or something like that. But he gets less and less impressive all the time. Hearing him. Now, Kim Iverson's, I agree with her. Jeremy Corbyn's statement and Cornel West's statement, it would probably be the best statements of them all because, honestly, at the end of the day, we don't want innocents on either side getting hurt. I mean,
right.
Because whether you're innocent, whether you're a Palestinian or whether you're Israeli and you just happen to be born there or live there and you're not fucking with anybody, just being there, you shouldn't. I don't want any casualties of innocence on either side. But
Yep.
there is a bad side. There is an aggressor on this side, and this the most blatant example of Israeli aggression here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not terrorist versus an innocent country. It's an oppressor versus a reactive oppressed.
Yes. And they're a powerful country attacking. I mean, some Air Force, they're using hang gliders. That's
Right.
air
That's
attack.
what I'm saying. Like, you guys are all like getting these F fighter jets and shit like that, all this kind of stuff, and like these crazy bombs and phosphorus you guys are shooting on Palestine. But Palestine literally has guys in parachutes. Like, those dudes are sitting in their like there's dirt tents or their dirt houses watching like James Bond 007 on VHS, taking notes like, how do I do this? Like, they're not out there militarily operating with like nuclear bombs and stuff. They're watching old 80s VHS of James Bonds and taking notes is what they're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, but Americans are going to be so propagandized because the media will beat this down on everybody, and I mean, there was a time I used to halfway believe this stuff a long time ago, because that's how the media is. They will just beat it down, and you'll sit there and you'll just believe this sort of thing. But once you scratch the surface, you'll realize what the truth is. This is why I go to independent media first than anything else, because I honestly don't trust anything that mainstream news will tell us.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I like to listen to the mainstream news on this stuff because I like to hear those same words that they say over and over and over again. Because I remember back, I'm like, a 9/11 teenager. I remember when Bush was like saying all these same words over and over again, because that's kind of a way to brainwash you into believing that it's them, that, like that's what it is. So I have to listen to mainstream to hear. Like, the most one that I've heard that's really been bugging me is the unprovoked part. I'm like, y'all are literally repeating unprovoked way too much.
Yes, they I mean, it's just the same old propaganda over and over again.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll still watch the mainstream news just to see what they're saying with a critical eye, but almost without exception. It's just going to see this. I mean, CNN, Fox, MSNBC. I mean, they're going to say just about the same thing.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Saying that we need to provide them with whatever necessary. I mean, here you've got a guy that has been very measured when it comes to the Ukraine-Russia war, saying, yes, it's really terrible what's happening to the Ukrainians. We have a humanitarian spirit towards them. We, of course, have good, reasons for wanting to help them. But the reality is we're just escalating into a larger conflict. But when it comes to Israel, suddenly he's like, give them whatever they need. And we need to support a sustained military operation, which we all know what a sustained military operation from Israel towards the Palestinians look like. And that looks like carpet bombing and the massacre of thousands of people. For every one person that the Palestinians, for every one Israeli that the Palestinians kill, the Israelis kill 10 to 20 times the number of Palestinians. It is not equal. It's not even. It's very lopsided. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr., of all the candidates, here he is. I thought he would have a more measured response, similar to Jeremy Corbyn or Cornel West, maybe a bit more. I mean, from what we've seen him being very pro-Israel, maybe a bit more standing with Israel, but not full-on warmonger, basically saying, yeah, let's give them whatever they need. We need to stand for endless military campaign. We already give Israel endless military aid that has never ended. So he's now advocating for more for Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Here's
not
Nikki
only
Haley.
military aid, America's been giving them all kinds of aid. Did you know that if you were a Palestinian, if you were born there, all right, and you're a Palestinian, you don't get anything. But if you're an American and you were born into a Jewish family, you can actually get paid and like get all kinds of like healthcare and schooling for your family and stuff to go out and live there and take over a Palestinian's house in West Bank and take it over as your own. So if you're a white person that's never even been to that country, you get benefits for moving there. But if you're a Palestinian who was born in that country, you don't get shit.
Well, that's another thing right there. The one thing I will say that's good about Israel, that's bad about the United States, is they have universal health care. But here in the United States, they're like, oh, we can't afford it in the United States, but we give billions to Israel. And part of it, we partially fund a universal health care program in Israel. I'm glad they got universal health care over there. I'm even glad they got it in the Ukraine. I'm glad they got it anywhere. But you know what? Let's have some of that universal health care here in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know,
warmonger, Nimarata here. She is a massive, massive warmonger at levels we haven't. I don't even know who she compares to. She's like worse than John Bolton. She says this is not just an attack on Israel. This was an attack on America. Don't know how she gets to that conclusion. Israel is a different country. But she says this was an attack on America.
Who the fuck does Nikki Haley think she is by saying finish them? Like she's some fucking like oh my gosh, I'm gonna blank on the fucking game now. Of course I am. Mortal Kombat character, like finish them. Like fuck you, bitch. Fuck you.
Jimmy, I'm gonna tell you.
What?
Yeah, I would tell you. Previously, I still think Ron DeSantis is a scummer, but I'm beginning to agree with you that Nikki Haley gets under my skin too. Just listening to her, rattle saber every time I hear her, she wants to go and just attack another country. Is all I ever hear from her.
Yeah, there is not a country that she will not get wet over killing on. Like, she just salivates at the mouth as soon as she hears the 3-letter word war. She's like, "Ma, I need it." And she's like orgasming everywhere all over it. She loves that shit. It's disgusting. I've never seen a woman more in love with war in my entire life than I have with her over the last, 10 years. I've been watching this lady. Ugh.
Well, Lindsey Graham is the other woman.
Yeah, right. Touche. Who's actually starting to catch up to Nikki Haley recently too is Tulsi Gabbard starting to catch up a little bit.
It is so disappointing.
Yeah.
I used to respect her so much.
Yeah, I know. Me too. I mean, we were all excited that she was going to be Bernie's VP pick, and now look at her. It's quite insane.
Yeah. What a griff. I mean, she's turned into the new Dave Rubin.
Yeah. Queen Elizabeth loved war. Yeah, of course. Anybody that's got power loves wars, so.
Finish them, Netanyahu. I mean, what kind of a warmonger? This woman, finish them, Netanyahu. They should have hell to pay for what they have just done. So she's wanting them to finish the Palestinians. I'm not 100% certain who she wants to finish, but she's all about that. Let's go to Jim Jordan. I was surprised by this one as well. This is another person that he has been very much anti-war or seemingly anti-war. He's been very much supporting, a peaceful resolution between Russia and Ukraine. Instead, he went full on war. Says rockets are raining down on Israeli towns right now. We need to immediately help replenish Israel's stockpile of Iron Dome missiles to protect more innocent civilians from getting killed. Let's make sure Congress can unite and assure Israel has what it needs to destroy Hamas. So Jim Jordan has been like, let's not give any more American aid to Ukraine. But here he is saying, make sure Congress gives Israel whatever they need. So that was, he is running for Speaker of the House. And he has definitely flipped his tune. In fact, he sounds a lot like Adam Schiff. So, when you're, both sides saying the same thing. Here's Adam Schiff and Jim Jordan. Adam Schiff saying something very, very similar to Jim Jordan. He says, Israel is experiencing its own 9/11. There's no both sides to this attack. Hamas is a terrorist group, mass murdering hundreds of innocent Israelis and taking women and children hostage. The U.S. must stand ready to provide Israel with the support it needs to defend itself, including humanitarian aid and funding for the Iron Dome. I'll give it to Adam Schiff. He's at least consistent. He wants to give endless aid to Ukraine and he wants to give endless aid to Israel. So he's all about war, no matter where that war is. So I appreciate consistency in arguments. I appreciate consistent thought. I don't agree with his consistent thought, but I will say at least he's consistent, unlike people that are flip-flopping on the issues. Tulsi Gabbard, this is what she had to say. This was kind of expected, disappointing. She's very, when it comes to Islam, jihadists, she's very much like go after the terrorists and they're the number one threat and we've got to bomb them. I mean, she appeared on Tucker Carlson's show at one point when he was asking her about the war in Afghanistan and ending it. And she kind of went on this whole thing of, I just got back from Africa and we have to, and we're fighting the jihadists and we have to fight the jihadists because that's America's number one threat. And it was actually kind of, you could tell, shocking to Tucker, shocking to many of us watching. We expected her to be anti-war. She wasn't, and she's not. She says the United States must stand with Israel in the face of this terror attack by the Islamist terrorist group Hamas. This is just the latest example of the greater war being waged by both Sunni and Shia Islamist jihadists throughout the world. This should be a wake-up call to leaders everywhere that Islamist jihadists are the greatest short and long-term threat to the safety, security, and freedom of the American people and people throughout the world. Okay. We've got also Trump. What did he have to say? Trump is also warmongering. It turns out there's very few political leaders who aren't. But he goes on to say the terror invasion of Israeli territory and the murder of Israeli soldiers and citizens is an act of savagery that must be and will be crushed and avenged, he says. So there are your choices for president. The choices are warmonger or warmonger. Take your warmonger pick. And if we stick with Joe Biden, we've got war potentially against Russia. If we go with a conservative, we're going to potentially have war with Iran. Although Iran is where a lot of them have been pointing the finger. We're hearing this all the time. Like if Joe Biden didn't give the $6 billion to Iran, then this wouldn't have happened. Even though the $6 billion is still sitting in an account, Iran hasn't touched it. But nonetheless, there's a lot of blame on Biden and Iran. But this is where things get weird. And I think everybody should pay attention to this one. This is reports that Syria, we might end up going into more of a war, a wider war with Syria, and Israel might be doing a wider war with Syria. And that makes sense if you understand that Israel has also, for example, gone and annexed the Golan Heights and would like to gain more of Syria's land. That is also part of the prophecy that the land that is, a lot of it is Syria, if not all of it, would belong to the descendants of Abraham. So if you follow along that line of thinking, then it makes sense that they would suddenly, sort of like how we went after Iraq after 9/11, even though it was a bunch of Saudis who did 9/11, but we were like, oh, Iraq, invade Iraq, because there really was a different alternative motive there. So here's the reports coming out saying that Israeli authorities claim Joe Biden will use the U.S. military to join a wider war for Israel against Syria now that he has sent the U.S. Navy against Hamas ahead of any possible conflict with China over Taiwan and its continuing war on Russia through Ukraine. So the Israel radar says Israeli warning to Hezbollah, IDF will destroy Damascus, target Syrian President Assad if Hezbollah joins the war, which Hezbollah is in Lebanon, saying U.S. warships will support Israel in war. So this is frightening, the fact that they're pointing at Syria, which they've been salivating over Syria for a long time, both Israel and the United States. And they're saying that if Hezbollah, which is in Lebanon, attacks Israel, they're going to go after Syria and they're going to destroy Damascus and target Syria and Bashar al-Assad.
Is that the next step? Because Hezbollah and Lebanon joined this morning. Didn't Israel shoot at Lebanon this morning?
I would not know because I got home really late from work this morning and
okay. I think I saw something on Instagram about Hezbollah joining in officially or something, or I think they joined in officially yesterday or the day before. And there was some about strikes going on in Lebanon. So I think that's already starting now. They bombed Lebanon for the past several days. Okay, see, I thought so. So yeah, it's already starting. And that's another thing too. I didn't even want to bring that up. The Christian children of Abraham Revelations prophecy that's going on with all of this too, the self-fulfilling prophecy that they're making happen. So that way their quote unquote invisible sky daddy will come back down and save them. That shit's terrifying. Just so you all know, I don't believe that it's going to happen or anything, but them trying to make all this bad stuff happen just so they can figure out that it's not going to happen is terrifying.
Yeah. Well, I think that I think in Israel itself, what's going on against the Palestinians is not necessarily religious; is colonialist. But I think that with the Christians. And when I say Christians, I mean your Presbyterians and your Episcopalians and all of that. I mean your evangelical Christians, the ones that they're the Christian Zionists. those folks, they're dangerous because they're anti-Semitic. They don't love the Jewish people. Sit there and the TV evangelists will tell you how much they love the Jewish people. They don't love the Jewish people.
No.
They want that land for themselves, and they're willing to go and incite this kind of violence to trigger World War III, to trigger a second coming, what they think is a second coming, and with the purpose of everybody wiped out. They're not just only anti-Muslim. They're okay with Jewish people being wiped out, and then so they can claim the land for themselves.
Yep, absolutely are. I agree.
Yeah, and that's
exactly,
truth.
Earl. They're cosplaying the Bible. I agree 100%.
It's called the Schofield Bible. In the 19th century, that's where this Christian Zionist nonsense come from, and it's a warped interpretation, and it's not anything that's. I mean, it's basically, any serious Christian would reject Christian Zionism.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah,
make any sense to me, but neither did the Iraq invasion. When you actually start to go and connect the dots, it's like, what did the Iraqis have to do with 9/11? Same sort of thing going on here. So keep your eyes wide open. We might end up in a war with Syria, major escalations in Syria. That could be where Israel decides to point and aim in hopes, what is the end goal there? I think everybody should be asking some questions when things don't add up. And that one certainly doesn't really add up. But these are our choices. In the political system, it is always the same: war, or more war, just depending on which war. Or would you like all the wars? It depends. If you go with Nikki, you're going to get all the wars. She wants to go after China. She wants to go after Russia. She wants to go after Syria, Iran, Palestinians, you name them. Nimarata's all about it. You could go with, a lighter version of that, where maybe somebody just wants war with Iran, and maybe they don't really want war with Russia or China. You could get the one that just wants Russia, just wants China, or just wants Russia. I don't know. Take your pick, but you're going to get a war. If you're an American, you're going to get a war.
Yep. Man, that's just so fucking frustrating. Like, I don't know if you've been feeling that the last couple of days. I've been feeling it since yesterday. It's like you're like been like stuck, like pushed into a corner so much by taking in all this information of all this stuff, to where you just want to scream at the top of the world, like, or the top of your lungs to the entire world, like, get your shit together. I'm fucking sick of this. Like, I'm seriously like at my breaking point with all this stuff. I'm just like, oh, this is so frustrating. I'm done. I'm ready to fucking kick the table over. I'm done playing the game.
Yeah, I mean, and as I said, we're always propagandized like we're always the good guys, and what we're about to do, whoever we support, is always for the good. And I don't know. I mean, especially since World War II, and prior to World War II, the United States has not had a very good track record of being really on the side of good. I mean, like maybe 90% of its time, and ask the people in any area that's been colonized, and one would see.
Mm-hmm. What's up, Uncle Warren's insatiable lust? He says you're looking great today, Willie.
Hey, Warren, how are you?
Good. I don't think that's really Warren. I think that's one of the trolley Warrens, but I love it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Earl says he's never been highlighted before. Thank you. Yes, we have chats for broke people. Bill, bring up the super chats. Okay, so what's the next one you want to talk about? The one from 2010 or Scott Ritter?
Let's see. I talked about the one from 2010, and I think it's probably important that we should talk about that.
Okay.
From WikiLeaks.
Yep.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Let's see. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. In this latest revelations that come out, hundreds of this is from the International Middle East what was it called? The International Middle East. God, I cannot think of the name of it right now. And it's basically how it's basically an article from Wiki about how the Israel and Mossad situation, helped nurtured Hamas. So, in the latest revelation to come out, hundreds of thousands of leaked diplomatic cables provided by the website WikiLeaks, a diplomatic exchange between the then Israeli director military intelligence, Major General Honors Jordan and U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Richard Jones, show Israel support for Hamas ruled Gaza Strip, which Israel could then declare Gaza to be hostile entity. The Hamas party won Palestinian parliamentary elections in January 2006, like I was talking about earlier, but was prevented from forming a government as required by the Palestinian Constitution. In June 2007, after months of attempted takeovers by the U.S.-supported Fatah party, the Hamas party was able to form a government in Gaza. The cable in question was recorded just hours before the Hamas government was formed in Gaza in June 2007. In the transcript, Jordan told the U.S. ambassador that he would be very happy if Hamas formed a government in Gaza, as long as they have no, as long as they have no air or sea support. He added that Israel could then work with the rival Palestinian political party Fatah to form a government in the West Bank and work to undermine the Hamas government in Gaza. Sounds like a divide and conquer strategy there. That's exactly what took place just after a meeting between Jordan and Ambassador Jones, and as Hamas created the government in Gaza, and Israel launched a massive siege and the largest ever assault in Gaza in late December 2008. In another leak cable, Jordan spoke with U.S. Congressman Robert Wexler in December 2008, saying that Abu Mazen, Mohammed Abbas, and Salam Fayyad, sorry for butchering the name, are controlling the West Bank, while the Hamas has established a terror entity in Gaza. So there you have it.
Yep. Yeah. No, and Hirsch said it also in the comment section too. Hamas was propped up by the Israelis as a countermeasure to secular and leftist rule. And like most fundamentalist groups that Western-backed nations propped up, they became the bigger fish. Yep.
Yeah. And look at Afghanistan. I mean, it was a Soviet-occupied government. Well, it was a Soviet-influenced government, and they called in the Soviets to help them out, and the United States backed Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden was on the payroll of the CIA, and the United States provided aid and everything to the rebels, and it's really funny. I was watching 60 Minutes in 1987. Yeah, my years messed up. With my dad, I was just turned 18. We were watching it, and we saw one of those rebels shoot down a Soviet plane. And my dad's conservative, and my dad told me that, we're all looking at that rebel shooting down that Soviet plane, and he said, I've always been anti-communist. This is what my dad said, and he says that Soviet plane, it's not the bad guy. The people we're giving the rocket launcher to and that rocket launcher will one day be turned against the United States. And he ended up being right in the turn of 9/11. We should not have ever been involved with Afghanistan. And the 9/11 report talked about a blowback. And Ron Paul said it, and he got reamed by people in his own party for saying these things. I don't know if you remember that.
No.
Yeah, Ron Paul. I mean, he's kind of popular now within Republican circles. There was a time Ron Paul was kind of hated by a lot of Republicans in the latter Bush years, and even a little bit during the beginnings of the Obama years, because the neocons and the religious right didn't like his foreign policy, because the neocons and the religious right support the neocons, still do, on foreign policy, which is Middle Eastern intervention nonstop.
Yeah. No, yeah. Ron Paul was back when he was on like his libertarian days when he was running for president, and he had what was his slogan? The Rev Love Lucian. That was really cool.
I remember that. Yeah. I mean, I'm not an economic libertarian, but I got a soft spot for Ron Paul. I first heard of him around '88 on the Morton Downey show when he was talking about legalizing drugs when he was running for president in the Libertarian Party. I was like, who's this guy? Yeah,
no,
so
I completely agree. Yeah, he used to be really, really good. Now he's kind of just, but that's how a lot of them are too. Like, I mean, I voted for Roseanne Barr in like, what was it, the 2012, 2013 elections for Green Party, because she just wanted to legalize marijuana. I was like, yeah, be my president. That's it.
She used to be a leftist. She actually used to be a leftist, but something happened. But she's got a weird politics because
a lot of them do,
even though she went and became a sycophant for Trump, during the Trump presidency, she still hated Mike Pence. She was on Alex Jones, not about 5 or 6 months ago, and Alex Jones was trying to talk up Ron DeSantis, which is odd for Alex Jones to talk up Ron DeSantis, but she was just like, I don't like Ron DeSantis. So there's some really weird areas where she still has some her old lefty politics, but she has some bizarre. She borrows some bizarre right wing politics, and she just hard to figure out.
Yep, I agree. Okay, so next one on your videos, Israel is reaping the whirlwind, mother of all talk shows with George Galloway.
Oh yeah.
This looks like a good one.
Scott Ritter, welcome back to the mother of all talk shows. I've got so many things I want to ask you, but let me start with what that last caller asked me. Where is this likely to go now?
Unfortunately, George, you're 100% correct. I mean, this is a conflict that cannot end until one side or the other has been decisively beaten and is willing to make compromises that they're not willing to make now. And frankly speaking, given the level of suffering that the Palestinian people have undergone over the past 7 decades, they're not likely to be the side that breaks first. Israel is a fundamentally broken nation morally. It's a nation that, regardless of what you think, I know some people take umbrage at this, but I happen to be somebody who believes that Israel has the right to exist, and that we should respect Israel's right to exist, but not in the way that it exists today. You can't exist on the backs of people that you've enslaved, and they have enslaved the Palestinians. In fact, it's worse than slavery, because slaves at least get to have the pretense of working in the fields, pretending for a moment maybe they're free. The Palestinians, especially those in Gaza, are stuck in this open-air prison, not of their own construct. Israel underwent a fundamental change in its demographics and politics in the 1990s when they opened the doors to the former Soviet Union, and hundreds of thousands of Jews fled to Israel, altering the balance. When I was in Israel in the 1990s, there was a struggle between right and left, but both agreed that there was a necessity for peace. However imperfect their political solutions might have been, I know for a fact that Yitzhak Rabin was looking for a peaceful outcome, looking for a settlement before he was assassinated by a right-wing Israeli. And now Benjamin Netanyahu has stepped into the gap. And ever since then, Israel has been drifting towards an even more radical right-wing solution. As long as Benjamin Netanyahu and his ilk are in power in Israel, there is no hope for peace, none whatsoever. And you are right. Israel will go into Gaza with a vengeance. And hundreds, if not thousands, of Palestinians will lose their lives. And in the end, some morally conscious nation, and I say that with the greatest, I don't believe it. There's no such thing as a morally conscious nation that keeps their tongue silent now. But some nation, the United States perhaps, will say enough is enough. Even we can't stomach the slaughter that you have perpetrated, and it's time to bring this fighting to a halt, and the cycle will begin all over again until the next time. Now, the only hope for this outcome not to go that way is if Hezbollah gets involved in a major way and breaks the paradigm. And if Hezbollah is backed by Syria and Syria is backed by Iran, and then we will see the strategic defeat of Israel. We may see the end of Benjamin Netanyahu physically or politically. And whatever replaces him in Israel will be somebody who is compelled by this defeat to seek peace in a way that's equitable for the Palestinian people. But until which time Israel is strategically defeated, there's no hope for peace. None whatsoever, because Israel, as it currently exists, can't have peace, because peace requires them to treat the Palestinian people with respect, with dignity. And Israel today is incapable of treating the Palestinian people with the respect and dignity, not only that they deserve, but that they demand. What happened yesterday, as violent and ugly as it was a manifestation of the demand that Palestinians be treated seriously, with respect. I, like everybody else, I think shudders at the death and destruction that took place. I wish it had never happened. But you sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind, and Israel is reaping the whirlwind right now as we speak. It's tragic, but tragically it's necessary.
What do you say, Scott, to those who doubt the scale of the negligence that appears to have been involved in all of this being planned? It clearly was planned. The build-up to it must have been long in the making. And yet this most heavily surveyed patch of earth in the world, all this was taking shape and then executed with quite spectacular levels of military success, however ghastly.
Look, there's no doubt that Hamas has pulled off, and this will be studied for years. Again, military professionals have to put aside politics and study military events with a professional eye. And what Hamas did yesterday is one of the most remarkable military feats in modern history. First of all, to be able to plan this without being detected by the Israelis is, as you indicate, almost miraculous. Now, I have an answer as to how this came about. I actually have just written an article that'll come out in Consortium News later this afternoon that addresses this issue. But I think this, Winston Churchill once famously said that he quipped about the War Office that they are always fighting the last war, never the next war. Israel is guilty of that in my mind. They are fighting 2021, Operation, I forget whatever, they named so many things, Wall Guardian or Guardian on Walls or something.
Been so many of them, yeah.
But Israel openly bragged at the end of this conflict, which they claim to have won, and yet Hamas still exists. They said this was the first artificial intelligence war. That you mentioned it. It's the most heavily surveilled piece of terrain in the world. Every 10 minutes, every meter of Gaza is photographed by Israel. And that data, those images go into a giant computer database. They collect every cell phone conversation, every text message, any email messaging. They have total control. They have human spies on the ground. And Israel bragged about this right afterwards in 2022. The first artificial intelligence battle, we had total domination of the information spectrum, and we were able to use artificial intelligence to predict outcomes, meaning that it wasn't a human being now that is telling Israel what to do. It is a computer algorithm put together by Israeli intelligence, and the Israelis bragged about this. And I will say this about Hamas, and about the Palestinians, and about Hezbollah. They aren't stupid. These are some of the smartest people on the planet, and they are survivors. And as soon as they heard that Israel had turned over the thinking process to a computer, I believe they sat there and they gamed the system. And they sat there and they created a whole bunch of artificial information that lulled the computer into a false sense of complacency. And because the Israelis had yielded their thinking ability to a computer, they went into Yom Kippur mode. And I don't mean this year, I mean 1973, where once again, all the information was there that an attack was going to take place. Hamas said an attack was going to take place. This is not a secret. Hamas has been saying over and over and over again, this is coming. We are going to do this. We will avenge the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So any thinking person, any rational person would have said, we need to prepare for this. But because Israel yielded its thought process to a computer programmed by people who did not respect Hamas, this intelligence failure took place. That's what I firmly believe.
Now, the whole of the south of Israel was, for a time, out with the control of the government in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem. The Palestinian militants, the factions, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, many, many groups, some of which I actually hadn't heard of before. They were all running amok. They were attacking settlements and settlers. They were defeating Israeli forces that they found. They were capturing Israeli police stations, military bases, prisons even. Why did it take Israel so long to get on top of the situation, even given the caveats that you've just made about how they missed it coming in the first place?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. I mean, first of all, we'll never know until the Israelis do an honest to goodness, form a commission to do a politically neutral autopsy on what happened here. But I can speculate, and I just want everybody to understand that that's exactly what's happening right now is speculation. Israel has been a fundamentally broken state in terms of domestic politics for some time now, ever since Bibi Netanyahu returned as prime minister. His corruption followed him, his attempt to shield himself from prosecution by taking over the court system so that he and he alone can appoint judges that are favorable to his position has divided this nation, the nation of Israel, like never before. Prior to the Hamas attack, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets on a regular basis to protest Benjamin Netanyahu. Thousands of Israeli reservists, the very reservists who are being called up now, said they will not serve an Israel that has a Bibi Netanyahu who violates the basic fundamentals of law there. So Israel was a divided nation. The military also, I believe, has just taken a unique stance regarding modern warfare. Look, there are many Russians right now who have learned the hard lessons of war over the course of the past 600 plus days in Ukraine, who are looking at the imagery of the Israeli military response saying, these are the most amateurish people we have ever seen in our lives. Their tactics, their approach, the timid nature of these soldiers is shocking. I think the Israeli army has lost the ability to close with and destroy the enemy through firepower and maneuver. They are so casualty averse that they've created a whole unit based upon unique technologies to let robots do the fighting for them. They let computers do the thinking for them. The last thing they want to do is put one of their soldiers on the ground against somebody who is trained and capable of killing them. Very good at beating up women, beating up children, beating up villagers, beating up old men, old women, but they're not very good at fighting people who stand up and fight back. And let's be clear here, the Hamas people who are fighting right now, these are lightly armed people with their courage cannot be doubted. but their skill set is limited. These are people who have not had the advantages of the military training and technology that the Israelis had, and yet they're fighting them still today, as we speak, outside of the Gaza Strip, in Israeli territory. They hold 30% of the territory that they captured on day one, and they are fighting. The Israelis can't beat them yet. They will beat them. There's no doubt about that. But Israel has forgot how to fight. They have forgot, because Yom Kippur 1973 was so bloody for them. Their experience in Lebanon was so bloody for them that they said, never again, we won't do that kind of fighting. Unfortunately, when you raise the level of hatred in a captive population, such as the Palestinians in Gaza, and those people decide to rise up, you are going to have to fight. There's a lot of incompetence going on in Israel right now. There's tremendous amount of military incompetence. The people I feel sorry for, to be honest, I mean, I'm just being frank here, are the Israelis who lived in the South. Not because of, there's a political question of should they be there, et cetera, et cetera. But these are people who believe the Israeli government when the Israeli government said, we will keep you safe. You can go to sleep at night. You will be safe. We will be there for you. If anything happens to you, we will come for you. And they were abandoned by their government, abandoned by their military. They're still abandoned to this day. Shame on the Israeli government. Shame on the Israeli military. There should be mass resignations, but this is all done because the men and women who wear the uniform today, who didn't come to the rescue of these Israelis in their time of need, should be evicted from their positions.
This is a wild.
If Israel does invade on the ground,
this is wild. Jeez.
Yeah, he's pretty intense when he's talking about the stuff in detail. I mean, he's a wealth of information.
Yeah. This is a lot. Like some things I agree with him on, some things I don't with him yet. But yeah. Like I'm not gonna sit there and be like, Hamas is like incredible, or anything like that. But geez, that's crazy. And another thing too, like he's talking about how like the military is like full of incompetence right now. The thing that he didn't say in this little thing is the reason at least my personal beliefs of why the military, to me at least, is incompetent in Israel is because it's a mandatory military engagement. So like as soon as you graduate out of high school, you have to spend some years in the military. So the majority of the military is a bunch of right out of high school kids that can easily be brainwashed into believing whatever you want them to believe as your military higher ups.
Another angle to it is this. The people who are leaving Israel, and this is partly why Israel has taken a turn to the hard right. Israel did have one time kind of a secular, it was once kind of secular society. A lot of them are leaving Israel. They can't take it with how far to the right the country has gotten. And so they're going to the United States. They're going to Europe, elsewhere, because they just can't take it anymore. And so the country is being populated by overly religious people who are, less educated. And so you're going to have less competency as well in its intelligence. And you're going to have just people who are just not going to know what the hell they're doing. So they're kind of explain that as well right there too. Partly and all of that. So
yep. Earl says up until about 10 years ago, more Jews lived in New York City than all of Israel. So yeah.
So I mean, again, as I said, it's George Galloway when Nancy Yahoo won the election earlier this year. And he said that the government is so far to the right that Nancy Yahoo is actually moderate compared to the rest of them. That's how far to the right, and he's a far right individual. Nancy Yahoo, because the government, they're now flirting with fascism. I'm not going to mince words slightly. Theocracy, and the only thing that's really stopping Israel from going fully that way is their Supreme Court. you know about their Supreme Court situation, right?
In Israel?
Yeah.
Yes, kind of, sort of, not really, but yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, they don't have a constitution,
Right.
but like the Supreme Court here in the United States, they interpret the law by its constitutionality. The Israeli Supreme Court don't have a constitution, but the people in the Supreme Court interpret it by how reasonable the law is, and they are in the buffer zone from the country doing way more fucked up things, and so it's just kind of like the Netanyahu tried to actually try to politically weaken the Supreme Court, where the Knesset could do anything it wants almost, and but it had to go, and the Supreme Court had to decide that decision. The Supreme Court of Israel basically said, "Well, we think this law is unreasonable."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Earl, I don't know if that statement is true or not now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah. Did you want to finish this?
I think we got the gist of it. So we can go on with the next story.
Okay. I think that was all for your ones with that. So yeah, keeping on with what we're still talking about, we'll continue with what I was showing earlier, with the ex-prime minister of Israel, talking about what's going on. And I really like your videos in there of like the viewpoints of certain people and you know what certain people are saying about it, like with the Kim Iverson one. I really enjoyed that as well, because a lot of the talking points are coming out of the mainstream media and are coming out of Israel itself. So this is kind of like proof right here, with an ex-Israeli prime minister talking to a Sky News anchor himself personally, and the words that they're using.
Of annihilating Jews just because they're Jews. We are talking about monsters who rape, sever parts of bodies, abduct 85-year-old women and 2-month-old babies. This is not an enemy. This is a monster, and we're going to treat it as such.
And we've just heard from a woman whose entire family have been taken. While pursuing Hamas, how is the IDF going to make sure that civilians, ordinary Palestinians, are not caught up in the violence?
And that's the question that started this whole thing with this whole viral video right there, is when you're dealing with Hamas in Gaza, how are you going to make sure that the Palestinians that live there are not going to be casualties of war while you're fighting these people? That was the question that he had. Logical, sensible, normal kind of question an anchor would probably have to somebody who has had that kind of control in Israel. This is his answer.
The responsibility for all the Israelis in captivity lies with Hamas. I can tell you right now that Hamas, Nazi Hamas, is soon to feel the full wrath of the Israeli people, because we're a nation of lions. Yes, we took a huge hit. I want to show you the Kedem family. This family, father Jonathan, the mother Tamar, the girls Shachar, Arbel, and the little baby Omer. This is just one family that was totally wiped out, murdered from point blank, among dozens and dozens of families that are wiped off of earth by these monsters. But at the same time, I want to tell you that Israel and the Jewish people, we're a nation of lions. We're up, and I can tell you that in all military...
I didn't know he said that we were a nation of lions. That's ridiculous. Hirsch, I know you're in Twitter or in Twitch right now. Please tell me he doesn't sound like a Lannister from the Game of Thrones. Jesus Christ.
Units, reservists. I fought for many years in the commando units of IDF. I was defense minister, prime minister. I can tell you, we're at 150% enlistment rate. Every Israeli wants to go fight and hit and kill those terrorists. We're going to hit back like you've never seen.
Yeah, did you hear if he said that our rate of people coming into the military is at 150%? Is that what he got off of that AI generated image of those Israelis flying to Israel to help fight in the war when it's actually an AI image because there was no aisles in that seat? Is that what he's talking about? I'm pretty sure he probably just saw that picture and was like 150% up in our rates of people going into the military.
No, I think if anything, I think sympathy, people are on the Israel's game, and the sympathy factor is disappearing around the world. I mean, the age of modern media. I mean, in the age of social media and alternative media, people are getting a different angle on things.
Oh yeah. Just wait. I got some more stuff. This is only the part that makes me mad. We'll get into the good stuff in a second.
Mr. Bennett, what responsibility do you think that the Israeli army now have on making sure that other families aren't torn apart by this, other innocents aren't lost in this? And I'm speaking specifically about the Palestinians in Gaza.
Well, the Palestinian IDF does not target civilians ever. We're not like our Nazi enemy. We will never target civilians deliberately. What we do is when there's a building or any Hamas related infrastructure, we tell the people, get out of there and we're going to destroy it. We hunt down the Hamas. If Hamas decides to murder its own people by using them as human shields, then Hamas will be responsible for murdering those Palestinians.
And what about those Palestinians in hospital who are on life support, and babies and incubators whose life support and incubator will have to be turned off because the Israelis have cut the power to Gaza?
Are you seriously keep on asking me about Palestinian civilians? What's wrong with you? Have you not seen what happened? We're fighting Nazis. We don't target them. Now, the world can come and bring them anything they want.
Can you fucking believe this guy right now? I was in shock when I saw this. Like, this is disgusting to me. How
they're not Nazis. I mean, and I don't want to go and say, well, the Israelis are acting like, no, I don't want to go there either. But what I'm going to say is to be a Nazi, to compare them to Nazis. Nazis were an actual strong state that actually did a crime to Jewish people in Germany.
They were a political power who oppressed a certain set of people. There's no way that Palestinians have any power to oppress the Israelis. It's impossible.
Nowhere even close to that sort of power. And here's the thing: if they were allowed, if Gaza was allowed to be autonomous and allowed to have some semblance of prosperity, and allowed to be a civil society, and allowed to come and leave as they please instead of being blockaded all to hell, and allowed to have an infrastructure, people would not be voting in Hamas. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Would there probably still be a little bit of terrorism? Yeah, you'll have some fanatics around, okay? But at the same time, again, they brought this to themselves. And where the racism I see is coming is, I don't want to say racism, but the religious bigotry is coming in, is against the Muslims, and they assume that all Palestinians are Muslims. There's a lot of them are Christian. There's a great many of them who are secular. They're not religious at all. And all these evangelicals who are Christian Zionists was a Palestinian Jew.
Yeah.
Right.
I know the mind games that this guy, like the the projection and the gaslighting that's going on with everything that he's saying. Like, all this anchor wanted to know is are the regular civilians in Palestine or in Gaza going, can you not hurt? Like, is there a way that you can not hurt them? And then his thing was, we're not hurting Palestinians. And then he puts the blame on, instead of taking accountability, puts the blame on Hamas, saying that Hamas, if they're going to use them as human shields, then it's their fault. So there's the gaslighting and the projection projection and the blame on somebody else. And then what are you talking about? How are you worried about Palestinians when we're doing, that's that selfish, narcissistic part of it. Man, this guy's just like checking off all like the red flag boxes. I swear.
Yes, he is.
If you want to bring them electricity, I'm not going to feed electricity or water to my enemies. If anyone else wants, that's fine. We're not responsible for them.
This is the point.
I should have just kept it going too. Like, that's disgusting to me. Like, you're gonna sit there and tell me, as Jewish people in Israel, you're gonna sit there and call Palestinians Nazis when you go around to any Nazi around, and that's exactly what they would say. They would say, you don't give them nothing. They don't deserve anything. Food, electricity, they deserve to be poor. They're people of color. Like, any Nazi would say that about people that are they believe that are less superior than them. And he's going to say that about his quote unquote enemies just because they're, living in it, or we all know the situation. Like, he's going around saying this kind of stuff and calling them Nazis. But if you really go and ask a Nazi stuff, that's pretty much word for word what they would say. So the irony is insane to me. Yes. Heretical. Thank you.
Point.
But you
this
keep
is the
on.
point.
Sorry.
Mr.
I want to tell you. No. Listen. You listen to me right now. I've heard you enough.
No, I understand. We're trying to have a
I've heard a lot of
conversation
you.
here. Listen, this is my program. This is my show, and I am asking the questions. You're raising your voice, and I've asked you, and we've already stopped, please, and let me finish. We've already distinguished between Hamas.
I want to tell you, shame on you.
You're trying to speak over me.
We are not. Shame on you.
It's nothing about shame. We're trying to have a conversation about a very serious situation here, and you are refusing to address it.
Jump over immediately, and again, you
absolutely not.
Narrative,
you are incorrect.
They are responsible, because I can tell you that when the UK,
absolutely
when
not.
Great Britain was fighting the Nazis during World War II, no one asked what's going on in Dresden. It was the Nazis targeting London, and you targeted Dresden. So
listen,
shame on you if you go on with that false narrative.
We're not talking about that, and in hindsight, many people.
Now all of a sudden, Israel's mad at England and the UK for helping them get what they want, because now they're not going to help them now. Like, y'all have been friends since UK decided to give you fucking Palestine, but all of a sudden, right now in this interview, you're saying shame on this guy because he wants to hold you accountable for the shit that you're doing now. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen, and in hindsight, many people have readdressed that kind of carpet bombing.
Babies. Oh, I see. Now you're Mr. Clean. Shame on you.
Absolutely not. And I'm not. Listen, Mr. Bennett, I am not in the military. I am a journalist asking you questions. Are you going to let me ask you a question, or you continue shouting at me? We've already distinguished between Hamas and the Palestinians. Right. I'm asking you very directly. What
do you want to ask?
Is going to be done to make sure that those innocent people don't get killed, as innocent Jewish people were killed on Saturday?
Well, we're going to target Hamas, and we're telling Hamas that if you use anyone as your human shield, and you're going to shoot at us using human shields, that it's their responsibility. Listen, mister, if someone is shooting at your children and hiding behind a human shield, will you shoot back or not? I'm asking you a question. Someone's shooting at your children, but hiding behind civilians. What's the answer?
Yeah. He's pretty much, he's done with them after that, which I give him props, like just ending it, not answering, the way that this guy is he's completely out of hand. Absolutely disgusting.
Answer. He said, what's the answer? I'll tell you what the answer should have been. After World War II, this whole thing could have been avoided. The U.S., Britain, France, and the Soviet Union should have taken what was East Prussia, which is now northern Poland, and Kaliningrad between Lithuania and Poland, which used to be a province of Germany, and declare that as a Jewish state and make Israel a European country. And that would have probably ended up better than sticking it in Palestine.
Yep. So right after, Democracy Now! Got a hold of that and actually interviewed somebody from that area to talk about kind of the social aspect of what is going on with the wording that the guy used and how his actions are, and how disheartening it is to see the rest of the mainstream media kind of doing the same thing as well. The how dare you, shame on you, because there's, you know, innocent Israelis dying and all of Palestinians are Hamas and they're all terrorists and stuff. So I just want to go through this really quick before I get to the good stuff. So
anchor Melbourne challenging the former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, who said to him, "You're daring to ask me about Palestinian civilians?" Mohammed Shahada, your response.
Well, I'm afraid that this is now becoming a mainstream sentiment in Israel, and not just in Israel, amongst official European and American leaders, and in the media as well. If you've been looking at what Israeli politicians are saying, about 2 days ago, an Israeli lawmaker, senior one, in the ruling coalition, Limor Sonhar Melech, she wrote on Twitter saying, quote, "There are no innocents in Gaza, flatten Gaza," quite literally, very openly. Now we have the architect, the godfather of the Israeli judicial coup or judicial overhaul, Simcha Rotman, is now saying that the main goal of this operation is that a Jewish kid can walk freely in Gaza alone, if there would be a Gaza at all. So this sentiment is shared widely, but what I find most striking are two things. Number one, European diplomats in the occupied territories are telling me that their leaders, their bosses, their foreign ministries, for the last at least 5 to 6 days, were not bringing Gaza up to their Israeli counterparts at all. That's the same with the US government. They're not bringing what Israel's conduct in Gaza at all, aside from the issue of the humanitarian corridor. This might change now with the forcible transfer of 1.1 million people, but at the same time, this level of complicitness I've never seen before. And it's the same with mainstream media. I've seen circulation of allegations that were completely debunked of extreme, horrendous atrocities like mass rapes and decapitation of babies being taken at face value by virtually all the mainstream media, circulating immediately and without the slightest work of journalistic integrity or investigation, although it was later debunked. And at the same time, when we have Human Rights Watch coming out yesterday and saying we have solid evidence of Israel using phosphorus munition on Gaza's civilian population, that's a chemical incendiary weapon that burns on immediate and ignites on immediate impact with oxygen, and it burns flesh and bone, and it cannot be turned off, and the toxic fumes of it can be lethal and can cause permanent respiratory damage. Human Rights Watch, who says Israel is using it, this is a war crime, and virtually not a single mainstream media is picking up and reporting on this. So it's unimaginable, the level of complicitness that I see in this round of escalation. Nobody is calling for de-escalation or ceasefire, not even a humanitarian ceasefire, although they did that in the last major war on Gaza 2014. That was the United Nations and the US. They had a humanitarian ceasefire for 72 hours. But this time there's not even any talk about it, not even a thought for it. And that I find most frightening. I get a lot of questions from my family and people I love in Gaza asking, are we gonna stay alive? One of my friends, she says, I just gave birth about a month ago. My baby is clinging to me. I'm afraid if he's going to die from a heart attack from the airstrikes and fear and terror. At the same time that she's afraid that her husband might get killed or taken away from her if there's a ground invasion. At the same time that she's afraid that she's going to end up permanently a refugee in the Sinai desert. These things are unimaginable horrors that are inflicted on Gaza right now with no one intervening to stop it. This is pure madness.
On CNN last night,
I completely agree. So that's kind of like the social aspect. It was like the media is complicit in what Israel is doing to Gaza. Not a lot of stuff is coming out of Gaza except for, you know, personal videos of people who are living there that are kind of going through the stuff themselves. There is a guy on TikTok named Kess who is doing a really, really, really good job. Whoa, I heard myself. Really good job on showing the disinformation, the debunking of the rumors being taken at face value, and journalists not even like doing their job and looking into whether this stuff is true or not. So if you guys do have a TikTok, I would suggest to go follow this Kess guy. This is only one of the videos that he's has brought up about this whole thing, but it is really good because it's about the baby beheading, debunking, and a lot of the other stuff of like what's going on inside of Gaza and what Israel is doing, especially the evacuation routes and stuff. So this is kind of like, yes, this is a feature. So here's one of them. Yeah.
This is one of the most gruesome updates I've ever had to give, but the world needs to wake up and needs to see this. The bodies of 40 babies and toddlers were just found in just one of the communities that were slaughtered by Hamas.
It's not fair. Industry plants with bot followers and a checkmark get to lie about babies dying in order to make themselves feel better about bombing other kids that are a couple shades darker than them.
Babies and toddlers, children were targeted, and so are girls who were brutalized with mass rape.
You know, there's a reason why Fox is the only major network that's running with this story. Like, all the European stations tried to verify this. As in, they sent journalists, like people that have won awards, on the ground to go talk to the soldiers about the trauma of seeing unalive babies. And I shit you not, the government's response to all the news stations, how dare you ask us to verify this story? That's disrespectful to the dead and our soldiers. Like, I just take a step back. The irony of a government lying about another group of people doing something that they've been doing for the last decade, and then blaming this third group of people for it and bombing them, not even bombing the people that they're making up the story about. That's how ridiculous all of this is.
More than 150,000 Palestinian civilians have been killed or injured in Gaza and the West Bank since 2008. 33,000 of those were children. The EU stands by and watches this happen and calls Israel our friend. We construct houses and schools in the West Bank. The Israelis come and destroy them. We cannot consider ourselves a union of values and continue to call Israel our friend.
Like, who am I supposed to believe? The EU and the United Nations with their statistics, or some random Karen whose only claim to fame is being on the Bill Maher show, regurgitating government talking points? Well, hold on. The way this all started 6 days ago, pure effing insanity. Hold on. This guy behind me is the current Israeli prime minister, but he also had the job in 1999 and nobody liked him. Somehow he got the job back in 2009 and started bombing the crap out of Palestinian kids. And nobody liked it. He had less than half of the country's approval rating. And then one day he gets a phone call from Egypt. They're like, hey, there's a terrorist attack coming on the anniversary of some shit. Why don't you go do your job as prime minister and protect your people? And Bibi turns into the snowflake god of all Karens, is like, oh, my people don't really like me. Maybe I'll just let a couple ravers die so I can look cool. And like, this isn't some bombshell journalism exposing some conspiracy. The defense prime minister tweeted it. Like, all I did was Google Translate. Look, I'll do it for you. I'll give you the abridged version. Hey, Bibi, you're an a-hole for letting 250 people die at the hands of terrorists, so you could go bomb this entirely different group of people that had nothing to do with the attack. You should resign.
Coming from Hamas armed wing, a spokesman there has warned residents in Ashkelon, that is a town inside Israel, that they have until 5 p.m. today to leave. So Hamas have issued a warning on the television.
Nobody is defending Hamas or terrorists on this page, by the way. They're brutal people using tactics meant to instill fear. But there are three sides to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. You got the terrorist side, for whatever reason, decide to warn the civilians in Ashkelon. Then you got the Palestinians, and forget the whole apartheid state. They are currently getting bombed for something that the terrorists did, right? And then you got us, the Western governments, telling these people, hey, this is the evacuation route to Egypt, and then letting Israel bomb the evacuation route 3 times. Like, it's really hard to figure out who's the good guy in this situation. No, wait, I don't think you heard me. Like, you see these links? This is like the New York Times for Israel. Even the Jewish people are like, yeah, that's kind of fucked up that you told all the Palestinians not responsible for the terrorist attacks to pack up all their shit in suitcases and go evacuate in this one route. And then you bomb the route. Like, you bomb them as they're trying to leave the country. Like I just, what?
This is one of the most gruesome updates I've...
Yeah, so I would say keep an eye on this guy. He did do another one too. Like, this guy is just, like, obviously he's definitely a news reporter for like the younger, very younger crowd, but at least he's, giving out decent information of what's going on out there, and showing you the verbiage of what is also being used on the other side and kind of the hypocrisy and the irony of all of it. Yeah, another one that I really think you guys should go watch is Sean King as well on Instagram. This guy has been doing some incredible journalism or work. He's just work, sharing a lot of stuff. So like just what the guy was saying in the last video, here is an actual ambulance driver out there. Let's see if it'll actually play. Pulling up to a hospital, getting out. He's crying on the streets, and then up close, you see him there. He's shaking, he's crying, he's obviously looking upset. Says, please tell the people to return their home. They bombed people while they were fleeing by trucks. They bombed the trucks and ambulances. They bombed people while they were fleeing. They told them to leave, and then they bombed them. This is pretty much going by what he was saying. A lot of the evacuation places are being bombed. They're telling them to flee. And then they're being bombed. Here's part 3 of a woman who's also talking about it as well. Let me put the volume.
So more updates about the evacuation that I've been talking about since the morning. Do you remember when I said that they push people to evacuate from the northern to the southern areas via a safe route, as they said? Okay, that was a trick. That was a trick. They targeted ambulances, cars, and buses in the road, and more than 150 people were killed until now, as I heard from other press and other journalists. So this is part 3. They are playing with us. They are playing with and on us. They told us this is a safe route. Innocent people took anything from their homes and went to the southern areas, and they killed them. They literally killed them. Literally more than 30 ambulance cars until now reached the Shifa, and it's not ended. It's not ended yet. Many people are killed. Most of them are children. The scenes are really hard. I can't even imagine that I'm living this. I can't imagine that this is real. I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my life. Please do something.
Crazy. It's so sad. I mean, there's a lot of videos in here that I can't even really show. I know that Sean King himself is getting in trouble with a lot of stuff that he's showing on Instagram, but he's showing it. And I don't support what Hamas hurting civilians or anything like that. I'm not okay with it. But this isn't fair either. I'm pretty sure that there's a lot more dead Palestinians than there is Israelis.
Absolutely.
How is this going to stop? All yes, what Hamas has done is really, really bad, and I'm not okay with it. I'm not accepting of it. I'm not good with it. Like, it's not okay. But it's just so strange to me how, like, an oppressed country that's just trying to fight back actually fights back a little bit, and then they just get it 3 times as worse on them already. I mean, didn't, like, a few years ago they were protesting in peace with the white flags, and kids were getting sniped across fences and stuff? Like, these guys have just tried everything, and they're still getting, now it's just even worse. They can't even leave the place. Like, they're completely surrounded. The north and the east is surrounded by the Israel borders. Then the south is surrounded by the borders of Egypt, owning that area. And then to the west of them is just ocean. Like, where are these people supposed to go? Where do they go? They're obviously being tricked. It's a really sad, horrible situation. And I'm just, like, at a breaking point of, like, how can I just want this all to stop. Like, we're just in war everywhere. Taiwan, China, Ukraine, Russia, been doing fucking Africa for fucking hundreds of years, Israel, Palestine, like, just Iran, Lebanon. When is it going to end? When is it going to end?
Yeah, hopefully it can end for the better, but what they call man's humanity, the man, and this is just another example of it. And all I can say is I urge people who sit there and listen to mainstream narratives to scratch the surface and do their homework and just not listen to the mainstream. Well, listen to the mainstream narrative and realize what it is, and realize that the Palestinians are people too, and they are being subjugated and they're being mistreated and all of that. Doesn't mean that being Jewish, doesn't mean that being Israeli is evil in itself. It just means you have right-wing people in Israel who are doing terrible things to the Palestinians, and you have the other right wing, the Hamas group, doing what they're doing, and we want it all to stop.
Yep. But we're
Yeah.
the crazy ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we want everybody to get along, you have here in this society people calling you pro-terrorism, and some people even calling you anti-Semitic.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. I don't know how to deal with all of it. So, but I'm glad that we got it out and we were able to talk about it today. It's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. And I feel like it's just not going anywhere positive.
Yeah, it seems like a couple of times each decade, this just sparks up over there in Israel, between Israel and the Palestinians with the Hamas situation and all of that. It just, and this is just the latest reiteration of it. Hopefully some kind of, even if it's an uneasy ceasefire, hopefully some kind of ceasefire will take place soon.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I absolutely agree. All right. I think we're pretty much almost done. So what you got for the rest of this week?
See, Saturday, tomorrow, I have my live stream at 8:00. Subject to be determined right now. Let's see. We don't know which day we're doing this. I was supposed to do a live stream last night with Tommy Nation's Politics and with Jamar Jabari from the Jabari podcast. But it couldn't have been done. We're going to try to do some kind of a stream sometime this week, and then of course next Friday, I believe Warren's going to be on Bragglands.
Yay! Cool. Next Friday is when we're having him. Okay.
Yeah. So
awesome.
And I know there's no secret show this coming Saturday.
Yep.
Tomorrow.
No secret show. You guys keep an eye out for Warren's YouTube channel, Extra Bola, though, because he has already posted one video last night, I believe, at his little Comic-Con adventure. So that's what he's going to be posting all weekend, is his little Comic-Con adventures. So
I guess
just keep an eye out for that.
For it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I get to sit down and relax and chill out and play Fallout 4, and he gets to show off his Comic-Con adventures. So yay, good weekend for me.
Absolutely. Yep. Let's see. And anything else going on right now, project wise, or just
nope.
Life in general?
No, that's it. Just keep an eye out. Check out my show on Twitch, Vexing Vixens. Obviously, I do my shows on there. I'll probably be doing some gaming stuff. Me and my friend Hirsch are in a discussion about maybe like a podcast about like historical, like topics of issue with historical meanings. So I got some other things maybe in the works, in talking and working on some stuff too. So if you guys want to go check out Hirsch as well on his Twitch channel, it's Papa Hirsch, POPPAHERSH. Yes, Fallout 4. Whoop, whoop. Go check him out. We're definitely going to be, he does a lot of gaming too. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing all week. I got to drive to the airport, so I get to drive to Los Angeles on Sunday. That's going to suck really bad. But other than that, that's it.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I go to work in a little while. I had a rough night last night, hence I was late. So, but hopefully that was a one-time thing.
Yeah, no, catch up on your sleep.
Yeah.
and if it ever happens again, just know that I will start the show without you. Show must go on, sir.
Yes. And anyway, everyone be sure to drop a like, comment on the channel, share, and please subscribe to the Bragglands on YouTube, Twitch, and follow us on Twitter. and just spread the word, and definitely subscribe. Definitely do that. And
Yeah, if you have subscribed, hit unsubscribe and then resubscribe again, and do that about 10 more times for us. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Definitely subscribe. Give us your support.
Right. If you've got more than one Gmail account, subscribe with all of those Gmail accounts. So just Jesus. I'm done. I'm
Oh
sorry.
my God, that's funny.
All right, you guys. Thank you all for watching the show. Hope you guys all have a really great weekend, and I cannot wait to see you all next week. Anything you want to say?
Well, I'm going to head off work, so I'll see y'all next week.
All right. Later, you guys.